And now I'm joined by Jonathan Sorrell, who is the president of the Men Group. Welcome, Jonathan, to our program.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
You are a fan of cricket, and yet your work has a lot to do with one of the world's best literature award, the Man Booker Award. Tell me about that award.
Well, we at Man Group are enormously proud to sponsor the Booker Prize. We've done so for the last 15 years, since 2002. And during that time, the Booker Prize has really become one of the most important awards for literature written in the English language. And we at Man are hugely proud to support that effort. As an investment management firm, sometimes we are asked why, in the business that we're in, we choose to sponsor an award which is to do with literature.
I'm glad you come up with the next question I should ask you. Why then?
And the reason for that is pretty simple. We in our business life need to think about the world in many, many different ways, and literature, of course, allows us to think about the world and our emotions in a variety of different ways through a variety of different lenses. And we believe that our support of the Literature Prize is critical to helping us think through the world as we see it. And we're going through a period of absolutely relentless change, very fast pace, obviously based largely on technology.
Absolutely.
And literature enables us to look at the world in a way that machines will
Cannot.
probably never be able to let us see it.
Yeah, and you have been rubbing shoulders with those big names coming from the literature world because you got the privilege of sponsoring that award. So how is it like for you as a business person in the ever-changing world to interact with these people who usually go to the deepest part, I guess, of human hearts?
Yeah, and as you say, getting the opportunity to interact with these people at events like the Booker Prize evening is absolutely fantastic. We had our awards ceremony in October of this year, and it really was an absolutely fantastic event.
Everybody is envious of you for having that opportunity.
Yeah, and one of the fantastic things this year, in fact, was that we had a series of very well-known actors from England reading passages of all the shortlisted books, which really helped bring it to life in a way that we hadn't done in prior years. So that was an absolutely fantastic aspect of the evening. And as you say, we get to interact with types of people that we don't necessarily always get to interact with, and people who think about the world in very different ways to how we do, and that diversity of thought is enormously enriching for us.
During that reading process for the award ceremony, is there a moment or two that really struck you?
Well, I think the diversity of the work that you see in the shortlist is absolutely incredible. And I think what's really helped the diversity of the prize in the last couple of years is how the foundation has decided to globalize it and make it available to authors based in any country producing literature in English that's published in the UK. So historically, the award was just for authors from the Commonwealth, and now it's been opened up more globally. So in fact, the last two winners of the prize have come from America, and the diversity of the literature that you get both on the long list and the short list is quite incredible. And of course, the work that won this year, Lincoln in the Bardo, is a very different work. It's George Saunders' first foray into a full-length book. He's known as a writer of short stories, and the concept of his work where Abraham Lincoln is talking to the spirit of his departed 11-year-old son while he walks the cemetery in Washington is quite an extraordinary concept. And similarly, when you look at the shortlisted books for the Man International Prize, again, you get even greater diversity of work, because there you're looking for a work of fiction which has been translated into English.
That's right.
And so that can come from anywhere in the world, of course.
And some of those were coming originally from China, shortlisted also.
Shortlisted books from China, not a winner so far, but no doubt that's only a matter of time. This year's winner came from Israel, as you may know, an author called David Grossman, who together with his translator Jessica Cohen won for their work A Horse Walks Into a Bar, which is, again, an extraordinary work about a stand-up comedian who, through his routine in a club in Israel, explores the various failures in his life.
I can see the lights in your eyes when you're talking about these books, the winners of the awards, both Booker Award and the International Booker Award. But you know, Jonathan, when we were talking before this interview, both you and I are talking about how important it is to look into the hearts these days in a dramatically changing world, and literature does have that extreme power of doing it. Booker Award winner this year extremely surprised us with that kind of surprising story and the way of transcending between different worlds, life and death. And they give us a lot of thinking, I guess, for you as a business person, for us as a globalized citizen, especially true.
That's absolutely right, and one thing we try and do through the work of the Booker Foundation is obviously promote the reading of literature on all levels and at all ages. And I think one of the important messages from the Booker Award is that literature is there to be enjoyed.
Yes.
And so it doesn't really matter, I suppose, what type of literature you read, but it's just critically important that people expand their horizon and explore new concepts.
I have to follow up with a question. Then what kind of literature do you read?
Well, I have to say on holiday is when I read most. Unfortunately, my job doesn't let me read too much between holidays, but on holidays I enjoy reading all sorts of books. I love
favorite
reading,
types?
Well, I love reading thrillers.
Thrillers?
One of my favorite authors is John le Carre. I love reading about business occasionally. Read a fantastic book which brought together all the essays of Warren Buffett on my last holiday, which was a great thing to read. And then one of my biggest pleasures in life is the very odd sport that we play in England called cricket.
Okay.
And I like reading books about cricket as well. So in addition,
are there a lot of books about cricket?
There are a lot of books about cricket.
Really? I didn't know that.
In addition to those three areas, I'm looking forward to reading Lincoln and the Bardo and Horse Walks into the Bar on holiday, perhaps as a higher form of literature.
But you know, just as the Nobel Literature Award, many people also have questions about the Booker Award and also International Booker Award. People are asking whether these panels of judges are looking at the works through their own lenses. Is it fair? How are they being selected? And therefore, whether their judgment about what the best works and the best works to be recommended to the rest of the world is really the ones.
Well, it's a very good point, and importantly, the judges are totally independent. So the trustees of the Booker Foundation will pick judges really from all walks of life. You'll have academics, you'll have authors, you'll have journalists, you'll have perhaps some former politicians who are all involved in selecting both the long list and the short list.
Did you go to talk to them?
I did, but you don't get to question them too much about their decision. I think they like to keep their deliberations to themselves.
Yeah.
And actually, the winner of the award is only selected on the day, so no one knows until the day of the awards who's going to win it. So they have a 3 or 4 hour meeting on the day of the awards to determine who the winner is, and of course, with the staggering amount of fantastic novels that are produced, it must be an incredibly difficult thing to do. But the panel of judges really draws from all walks of life, and I think at the end always comes up with an interesting, if sometimes controversial selection.
Do we know any inside story as to whether they throw tomatoes at one another in order to come up with a winner?
I'm sure it's very civilized as a discussion.
Yes. Talking about literature, we see the multifacets of it, particularly in the globalized world. And that also helps us to understand the fact that these days we really have to do our things, transcend borders and transcend cultures. How would those literature works, from your perspective, be able to help you and your colleagues see the world differently?
Well, that's right, and as we've discussed, both in the Man Booker Prize and the International Prize, you get a huge diversity of literature from across cultures, and I think the expansion of the Man Booker International Prize to works that are translated into English has broadened even further and globalized the literature that's involved in the prize, and that helps you understand different cultures as well.
And the language of English too. I mean, before, it seems that the standard English only coming from England, where you are originally coming from. But with this Commonwealth Literature Award, in a way, at the very beginning, the Booker Award, all kinds of English language is being explored on the literature work and being promoted. And now when you have the translation works, which are done in languages from so many different parts of the world, and now translated into English and contribute to the English language, that's also an enriching story too.
It is a very enriching story, and one of the things we try to do is balance the enrichment and the diversity that we get from the literature with initiatives that are really designed to promote literacy at all levels. And so one of the vital things that the Booker Foundation does is sponsor a number of causes which are designed to improve literacy in the UK. So for example, they have an incredible program called Books Unlocked, which helps to promote literacy in young offenders institutions and prisons, where obviously low levels of literacy are a huge problem. And it also helps to promote the emotional well-being of prisoners. So they will get, for example, authors to go into prisons to read their works to inmates, which is just a wonderful thing to do. In our own company, we have a charitable trust, which again actually supports both literacy and numeracy in the communities in which we operate. And as a company operating in the UK, we obviously have a clear responsibility to help the communities in which we're based.
Jonathan, I understand that the books that are entering into the competition for the Booker Award and the International Booker Award is increasing dramatically every year. So the judges have a lot of work to do. They have to go through all of these books.
Yeah,
and I just wondered, as someone who is supporting this award, the Man Group, what kind of encouragement are you going to give to these panel of judges in order for them to better perform? That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of books to get through, but they have a lot of very intellectual, well-read judges who seem to look forward to the task. So I think it's a massive honor.
Seem to look forward to the
task. So maybe there are times when it drags, but I think it's such an honor to be selected as a judge for the prize that I think it's a task that they all look forward to. And of course, they have an enormous love of literature and of reading, and so I think it's a great thing for them to be asked to do it, and I think it's something they enjoy enormously. Perhaps some of the books are heavier going than others, but I think it's a great pleasure for the judges involved.
The Christmas season is coming, so I guess you have a lot of titles to recommend to your friends this year, I guess.
Yep. Well, look, the obvious answer is Lincoln in the Bardo as the winner of the prize, and Horse Walks into the Bar for the international prizes too, as two excellent books.
We will have them on our shelves. Thank you so much, Jonathan Sorrell,
Thank you
for being with us. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.